Hello and welcome to Narayana IAS. My name is Abhijit Srivastav and we are here to discuss daily news analysis. Today is 19th February 2024 and let's have a quick overview on the topics that we are going to discuss here. First is recalibrating merit in the age of artificial intelligence. This article is discussing about an interplay between technology and the social structure. So, how social structure is being shaped by technology and how it is shaping the technology. So, we will be discussing in this article. What are IPCC's assessment reports? What is IPCC? What are IPCC's assessment reports? And how these reports are affecting or going to affect our future policies, right? Income, not MSP. What is MSP? How MSP are affecting our economy, society, politics, and at the international level, how MSP is playing a crucial role for India. What our ancestors' genomes can tell about modern health. So, how we are collecting ancestors' genome, how we are understanding ancestor genomes, and how these genomes or data related to the ancestor genomes is related to modern health that we will be discussing. Ultradian rhythms, it's basically biological cycle which is different from circadian cycle or circadian rhythms. You may have encountered with this word circadian rhythm, how these two rhythms or these two biological cycles are different, how we can use the knowledge which we are getting from ultradian rhythms to improve our productivity, that we will be discussing in this article. And after all these discussion, we will be solving some prelims and mains related questions. So let's start our discussion. Embark on your UPSC journey with Narayana IAS Academy. Our esteemed 5-year and 3-year integrated programs now open for admissions in Hyderabad, Vijayawada and Nellore. Our courses includes robust R&D backed initiatives such as daily news analysis, daily news review, a comprehensive review program for a broader understanding of current affairs. Second, NCERT program, a foundational course that covers all NCERT syllabi crucial for UPSC preparation. Third, mentorship program for personalized guidance and regular test series for systematic learning and assessment. So begin your journey to becoming a leader with Narayana IAS Academy today. So the first article for today's discussion is Recalibrating Merit in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. Previously, me and some of my colleagues have discussed artificial intelligence a lot many times. And there is a high chance that UPSC may ask certain aspect of artificial intelligence in upcoming CSE mains examination. So, whenever a technology comes, with the advent of a technology, it affects society multifariously. As far as social structure is concerned, it affects social structure in 3 ways. First, it or a particular technology or disruptive technology can be used only by some people. For example, Industrial Revolution 1. Industrial Revolution 1 was fueled by coal and steam engine and marked a shift from manual labor to machine-based works. And only few capitalists were capable enough to harness this technology, right? Second is, it increases productivity. How it increases productivity? To understand this, we need to understand the relationship between technology and the population. Technology is based upon certain source of energy, and this technology is helping or supporting a particular population. With due course of time, population increases, and after particular threshold level, this source of energy or this technology is not able to fulfill the needs of that particular population. So we need to discover either new source of energy or a new technology which can harness this source of energy optimally or in a more optimum manner, right? This discovery is upgradation of this particular technology, and that is why it is increasing the productivity of the society as well. So it always increases the productivity. Third, it freed some people. Now these people can be helpful in further discoveries or creativity. So people may indulge in future discoveries or creativity, right? Because of all these three things, it always creates a stratification system or a new axis of stratification. What is stratification? Stratification divides society into strata. So some people will be ranked above the other, right? So this is stratification. For example, class system or caste system. Propounder of these stratification system or supporter of this stratification system always argues that stratification is based upon a concept known as meritocracy. This article discusses about the meritocracy and what are the biases involved into it. Also, how artificial intelligence is going to affect this meritocracy or concept of meritocracy and this stratification eventually, and what precautions we have to take, right? How this is important for UPSC examination. This is discussing about the artificial intelligence, its social impact, and specifically the meritocracy. This will be helpful in essay examination, essay paper. This will be helpful in GS paper 1, salient features of Indian society, diversity in India, which incorporates stratification and effects of globalization on Indian society. So artificial intelligence is an output or outcome of globalization and how this artificial intelligence is going to affect our Indian society. Let's understand the importance of this concept from previous year mains paper point of view. In 2020, UPSC asked this question: how is science interwoven deeply with our lives? Right? So it's asking about the impact of science or technology to our lives, to our social lives, to our economic lives, to our political lives. So we are discussing here social life or social structure, right? What is the context? There needs to be sophisticated understanding in the interplay between technology and social structure. How technology is being shaped by social structure and how social structure is getting affected by technology. So first we need to understand the meritocracy, concept of meritocracy. Meritocracy is based upon rewarding individuals for their abilities, achievements, and hard work rather than their social status. This is argued by people who are in the favor of stratification system. So if there is a stratification system, people capturing or people occupying higher status, they are arguing there that they are more able, they have achieved a lot, and they are hard working people, and that is why they occupied higher position in the society in comparison to other people, right? But people found out that there is a basic problem in the concept of meritocracy. How? It is based upon inherited inequalities and biases inherent in the social structure. For example, let's give an example of Green Revolution. Green Revolution was characterized by mechanization, and because of this mechanization, we saw gender inequality. How? There is a preconceived notion that women are not fit for heavy machines. Women are not fit for heavy machines. If women are not fit for heavy machines, So in case of any mechanization or in case of advent of any heavy machineries, women were carved out of the labor force, and that we see in case of Western India during Green Revolution, and it increased the gender inequality in that particular region. And the after effects of Green Revolution we can see even today in terms of gender inequality, female infanticide, female feticide, etc. Right? So most of the technologies or most of the impact of technologies or this concept of meritocracy is based upon certain biases, or it inherits inequalities, social inequalities, right? How, who can avail the technology or availability, accessibility, affordability, and awareness. For example, Industrial Revolution 1 was not available to Indian people. Women were not accessible, or heavy machines were not accessible to women. Poor people in the society cannot afford digital technologies, and there is a lack of awareness in terms of artificial intelligence to a major section in the society, or major part of Indian society, right? So who can use the technology is based upon the social structure. We can give another example for that. For example, before modernity, in traditional Indian society, religion governed the educational institutions, right? Religion governed the education, and who were allowed to take participation in the educational processes? Only upper caste male people. That is why they were the only people who involved in the literary tradition of India. That is why they were the people who benefited most because of westernization and Western education, right? And they harnessed the upcoming technologies in the Indian structure, Indian society, right? So how this AI is going to affect the meritocracy or the concept of meritocracy? Firstly, artificial intelligence is beyond human capability. So this whole concept of merit or meritocracy is being redefined by artificial intelligence. How? Artificial intelligence challenges traditional metrics of human merit by performing tasks beyond human abilities, right? So it is going to affect, not just affect, it is transforming the definition of merit itself, right? Access of technology or access to technology, it prioritizes individuals with access to AI tools over personal abilities. So even if you are not physically capable, you can use artificial intelligence, right? But there is a problem. It perpetuates biases even today. How? For example, precision medicine. We are taking two examples. Precision medicine. One is precision medicine and another is facial recognition technology. This precision medicine is based upon machine learning and data interpretation. The whole data taken for precision medicine is taken from a particular part of our globe, that is Europe, or specifically Western Europe. The data which is being used to devise precision medicine is taken from the Western Europe only, and that may not be helpful in African and Asian countries, because you are not taking data from these continents or these subcontinents or these section of people, right? So that is why it is this data which are capturing to make precision medicine are biased, and this biasness in data capture is also hampering the machine learning. Why? In future, this whole algorithm will learn from the particular data set that we have feed into that algorithm or that particular machine, and that machine will be based upon this biased data, and that will be negatively affecting African and Asian society. Also, in facial recognition technology, that the algorithm that we are using, this algorithm may be based upon the prejudices of the developer, right? So there is maybe some developers and they may have certain prejudices based upon the current social structure, and because of this biased algorithm, this facial recognition technology always being affected by this biased algorithm. How? For example, if a developer is against a particular racial segment or racial society or racial configuration, right? So this algorithm will affect that particular biases, right? And it will capture that racial feature negatively always, right? And that is why it will become magnified in upcoming future with the help of certain data, right? So this facial recognition technology, there is a possibility that this facial recognition technology will also be biased as per current social structure, right? So data we are capturing and algorithm that we are designing, both can be biased, right? So this artificial intelligence is also perpetuating the biases. How AI can exacerbate biases in decision making processes. Okay, this artificial intelligence is also obliterating the manual labor from our labor market, right? So it is displacing certain jobs, that specifically the manual jobs, and after which we will be observing a polarization of jobs that will incorporate highly skilled jobs and very less or unskilled jobs only, right? So it will also polarize the workforce, right? We have discussed about opaque algorithms and accountability. This whole artificial intelligence is kind of black box. The nature of artificial intelligence is kind of black box. You are not able to understand what is inherent in it, right? So the black box nature of artificial intelligence system make it difficult to understand the evaluation criteria, right? That we have already seen in the facial recognition technology, right? Also, this data hegemony that we have seen in the precision medicine, because of this data hegemony, only few people will be able to harness the whole benefit of the artificial intelligence technology. So concentration of data with tech giants sets new standards of merit, potentially disadvantaging smaller entities, right? So how we can proceed further with this thing? It requires rethinking how merit is defined. We need to define merit in totality, right? And for example, earlier it was IQ, which was defining the merit. Now it is EQ, emotional quotient, which is defining the merit. The person who is more emotionally intelligent, which have more emotional quotient, will be more meritorious than the other people, right? So we have to incorporate more inclusive ideas in defining merit and rewarded in an era where artificial intelligence can augment human capabilities and reinforce inequalities. So there is a possibility that artificial intelligence can augment human capabilities, but we have to take care of the inequalities that can affect our artificial intelligence or its effect on society in future. Next article is, what are IPCC's assessment reports? IPCC stands for Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This article is discussing about two reports: sixth assessment report of IPCC and upcoming seventh assessment report, right? So far IPCC has came up with six assessment reports, right? And along with these assessment reports, IPCC has also published special reports and methodology reports, right? In this sixth assessment report, IPCC was discussing about vulnerabilities, causes and consequences, adaptation and mitigation of climate change. What is adaptation and mitigation? So to understand this, a phenomena will have certain causes and certain consequences. For example, climate change. What is climate change? Long-term change in weather phenomena, that is called as climate change. Okay, so for climate change, certain causes will be there, certain consequences will be there. For example, greenhouse gases are the causes, right? And consequences, sea level rise. So if we are targeting on the consequences and we try to reduce the causes, or we try to improve the situation to tackle the causes, that is called as mitigation. For example, if we are reducing carbon level in the atmosphere, that comes under mitigation. If we are targeting on the consequences, that will cover, or that will be called as adaptation, right? So if we are focusing on technologies which can be helpful in higher temperature, so that is called as adaptation, right? So we are focusing on the consequences. We are taking measures to adapt ourselves in a changed situation, right? That is called as adaptation, right? So this sixth assessment report was discussing about this. Also, it was discussing about 1.5 degrees Celsius target of Paris Agreement. What was that? This Paris Agreement comes under UNFCCC convention, and it was discussing that if we breach 1.5 degrees Celsius global temperature above than pre-industrial level, so before industrial revolution, a global temperature, average global temperature was there, right? And if we increase more than 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature above than the pre-industrial level temperature, so it will be affecting our globe, our Earth as a planet in a negative sense. And if we breach 2 degrees Celsius target, then it will be creating a tipping point, and the changes will be irreversible in nature. So this was there in the sixth assessment report. Why this is important for our UPSC examination? Because in GS paper 3, conservation, environmental pollution and degradation is in the GS paper 3, and this article is discussing about the IPCC reports, conservation efforts, and a new, not just new, but a recent concept, that is global stock take. We'll be discussing this in a later, right? Let's understand the importance of this whole topic from previous year question point of view. In 2017, UPSC asked this question: climate change is a global problem. How India will be affected by climate change? How Himalayan and coastal states of India will be affected by climate change, right? What is the context? IPCC has initiated 7th assessment cycle with discussion on budget. This is important. Budget for prelims examination, budget, timelines and work programs starting in January 2024 in Turkey. What is the background? United Nations special body IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has been producing assessment reports since 1988. We'll be discussing background or history of IPCC in a little bit later, which includes 6 assessment reports that we have discussed. What is 6 assessment report? So basically what IPCC is doing, it assesses thousands of scientific papers published every year and to inform policymakers about the state of knowledge, that is scientific knowledge or technical knowledge, and socio-economic knowledge on climate change and its impact. Right? So these are assessment reports. Along with this, special reports has been published by IPCC. What are these special reports? Special reports are those reports which are integrating different reports with assessment reports, right? And methodology reports, right? Okay, to provide guidelines for estimating greenhouse gas emission and removals. So the 6th assessment report published in 2021-2022, not just 6th assessment report, the 6th assessment report started in publishing 2018-19, and 3 of the 6 assessment report, like 6 assessment report included multiple reports, within which 3 sub-reports of 6 assessment report was published in 2021-2022, highlighted the urgent need to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level and presented strategies for adaptation, resilience and mitigation that we have discussed. Let's see the background of IPCC. It was established by WMO, World Meteorological Organization, and UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, in 1988. There are 195 member countries currently associated with IPCC. Major objective is to assess scientific, technical and socio-economic information relevant to or relevant for understanding human-induced climate change, its potential impact and options for mitigation and adaptation. Main activity, they are preparing reports assessing the state of knowledge on climate change, including assessment reports, special reports and the methodology reports that we have discussed. Role in international negotiation, the assessment reports serve as a key input to international negotiations on climate change, basically for UNFCCC. Right? Research approach, they do not conduct any kind of scientific research themselves, but they synthesizes existing scientific literature on climate change through global scientific collaboration. Okay. There are 3 working groups in the IPCC. First working group focuses on the physical science basis of climate change. Second working group deals with the impacts, adaptation and vulnerability related to the climate change. And third working group concentrates on mitigation of the climate change. So far, 6 reports has been published. First report was published 2 years after the establishment of IPCC, and it's supported for the creation of UNFCCC. The second report was published in 1995 and it urged for adoption of Kyoto Protocol, right? This Kyoto Protocol came into picture, or this Kyoto Protocol was made to curb GHG emission at the global level, right? Third report was published in 2001. It highlighted the anthropogenic factor which are causing the climate change. Fourth report was published in 2007, which gave greater attention to the integration of climate change with sustainable development, right? Fifth report was published in 2013-14, and it was at that time it was clear that human influence on climate change is there. Fifth report was published in 2013-14, and at that time it was clear that human influence is affecting climate change and which was more disruptive in nature. So we have to limit the climate change and build a more prosperous, sustainable future. In that particular assessment report, or fifth assessment report, it was mentioned that most of the GHG emission was from the energy, then industry, then transport, and then from building, right? Currently, it's ELIT, elite building. Mnemonics to remember the share of CO2 emission. Largest contributor to CO2 emission is energy and heat production. Energy and heat production. close to 25%. L for land use, specifically agriculture and forestry, and it contributes to 24%. I is industry, it contributes to close to 21%. T is transport, that is close to 14%. And E is other forms of energy, that is 10%. And building contributes to 6% in CO2 emission. CO2 is the largest contributor to climate change and affecting almost 73% GHG impact, right? Next is methane, and next is N2, followed by N2, right? N2 is nitrous oxide. Sixth report, which was initially published in 2018-19 in 3 series, and last series was published in 2021-2022. The first one was intended to highlight the climate change impact that could be avoided by limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Second sub-report of 6th assessment report was regarding climate change, deforestation and land degradation, sustainable land management, food security and greenhouse gas influx in terrestrial ecosystem. And third was ocean and cryospheric in changing climate, right? What is global stock take and why this is in the 7th assessment report? The global stock take is a mechanism under the UNFCCC. What is UNFCCC? United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, to assess collective progress towards the goal of the Paris Agreement every 5 years, with the second global stock take scheduled for 2028. 7th assessment report is initiated or has been initiated with discussion on budget timelines and work programs that we have seen. The 7th assessment report cycle will include full assessment and synthesis report and methodology report on short-lived climate forces. What is short-lived climate forces? The climate forces or the factors which are affecting climate change or impacting climate change, but that has atmospheric lifetime less than 2 decades, are known as short-lived climate forces, and carbon removal, and a special report on climate change and cities. So these things will be covered under assessment report 7th, right? The problem is the timeline for AR7 report is under discussion, with some member countries advocating for completion by 2028 to align with the second global stock take, right? But challenges is related to new literature publication, climate modeling. What is climate modeling? It's a digital form of climate to assess the causes and consequences of climate change, and engagement with underrepresented communities may affect the schedule, because we haven't give proper representation to certain communities which will be affected by climate change more rigorously, more profoundly, right? The special and methodology report are planned to be published in 2027, with a decision on the timeline for the assessment reports pending until the 61st session of the IPCC. Next article is income not MSP. What is MSP? MSP stands for minimum support price. It's a market intervention mechanism used by the government to ensure price stability of certain essential agricultural commodities, through which government is also trying to give coverage or a kind of security to the farmers, right? This article is discussing an important issue related with the MSP, and this article is arguing that today the agro-food policies are more focused on the consumer at the cost of the producers. Why this article is important for us? Because in GS paper 3, there is a topic issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidies and MSP, that is minimum support price. So that is why this article becomes very important for our UPSC examination. Let's understand the importance of the whole topic through a previous year question. In UPSC 2015 mains examination, UPSC asked about the contract farming and land leasing, right? So there may be chance that UPSC in upcoming years asks directly about the MSP. What is the context? Nowadays, we are witnessing a very strong wave of farmers' protests in the North India, specifically in Punjab and Haryana. And there are two major demands of the farmers. One is to legalize the MSP, to make MSP legally binding, right? And second, use Swaminathan formula for deciding the MSP, right? So let's understand MSP first, then we'll decide how this cost or this MSP is decided by government. As we have already seen that MSP is a market intervention mechanism adopted by the government to ensure price stability of essential commodities, agricultural commodities. Currently, government is giving MSP on 22 agricultural items along with FRP, that is fair and remuneration price on sugarcane, right? The purpose is to insulate farmers from any price volatility along with the price stability of essential agricultural commodities. How MSPs are being calculated? So there are two formulas. One is suggested by Swaminathan committee and second is government, which is government adopting right now, right? And there are two costs. One is cost C2 and another is cost A2. What are these cost C2 and cost A2? Cost A2 is expenses incurred by the farmers. So all the inputs that are being used by farmers to produce a particular item, that is expenses incurred by the farmers. Cost C2 incorporates these expenses incurred by farmers along with the presumed rental cost for owned land and assumed interest on the owned capital, right? So cost C2 becomes higher than cost A2. There is also one cost, that is FL, that is estimated value of family labor. See, family labor is also involved in the agriculture and there is an opportunity cost. If they would not have been involved into agriculture, they would have involved into certain other sector. So they would have been earning certain amount, certain money, right? So this value should also be considered. So currently what government is following is cost A2 plus FL and 50% more than this cost A2 plus FL, right? So 50% above than cost A2 plus FL, that is family labor. But what people or farmers are demanding, what Swaminathan has suggested is cost C2 plus FL and 50% more than cost C2 plus FL, right? There are certain additional demands of the farmers in current farmers protest is like loan waivers, pensions and minimum wages to ensure a dignified life for the farmers. But there are certain issues associated with the MSP. What are those issues? First is economic. And within economic, there are three sub-issues. First is, it is prohibiting any structural reforms in economy in general and agriculture in particular. What is structural reform? Structural reform includes three things: improved technology or improvement in technology, increase in the productivity, and third is labor is shifted towards more productive sector. So more productive sector. if labor is shifting towards more productive sector, even within agriculture, if labor is shifting more towards productive sector, that is called as structural reform. And because of this MSP, people or farmers are relying more on the items, or they are producing more those items which are covered under the MSP, and not on those productive sectors or those items. They are not producing those items which can be more productive, right? For example, they are not producing horticultures. They are not focusing on horticultures. Why this is not productive, we'll be discussing. Second thing is, it is against the demand supply principles. If government is intervening in the agricultural production, it is against the demand supply principles. How? Let's suppose tomorrow prices for a particular commodity is increasing, but farmers are not producing this commodity because they are not sure that they will get enough money for their production, because MSP is ensuring them to produce certain specific, that is 22 items, and that is why it is against the demand supply principles. Third is, it is prohibiting any kind of private investment or capital investment in the agriculture. How? Because this is prohibiting demand supply, it is very difficult for any future planning in the agriculture. If it is difficult for future planning, people or the capitalist will not invest their capital in the agriculture sector, right? Second issue is, second issue related with the MSP is social. How social? Because at one place it is ensuring price stability in 22 items only, or 22 plus 1 items only, but it is not ensuring price stability on other commodities, specifically on horticulture produces. But for a balanced diet, we have to focus on horticultures as well, horticulture or vegetables as well, right? Fruits as well. And that is why we are witnessing a high volatility in the price of vegetables and fruits in India. And if this price volatility is there in the market, and prices of vegetables and horticulture produces or fruits are increasing, it will negatively affect the poor people, and poor people becomes more vulnerable towards the price volatility in these sector or these items, right? So they will be more sufferer, more vulnerable towards this price volatility because of this MSP, right? Also, it is supporting regionalism. How? People from a particular section of, or particular segment or particular state in India are getting benefited from these MSPs and not the other people, right? Third major issue is environmental. How? People or farmers are more tended towards producing these 22 items, and that too against their agro-geographic conditions. For example, in Punjab and Haryana, the Punjab and Haryana are not suited for rice and wheat cultivation, right? Even after that, they are producing wheat and rice, and that too in a very significant amount. It is negatively impacting their soil health and local agro climatic conditions, right? Next impact is political. MSPs are the biggest tool for APMCs, Agricultural Produce Market Committee, and these APMCs are controlled by state government or local leaders, and they have a lot of impact on the farmers. They are acquiring a very strong hold in the farming community, and this is why it is also affecting our political structure in our society or in our Indian scenario, right? There's also international impact associated. How? This MSP comes under the amber box subsidies, right? and because of which we are exceeding 10% limit of Amber Box MSP or subsidy, and which is a very strong issue between developed versus developing countries, and India is facing a strong opposition from the developed countries at WTO, and that is how this MSP is associated with a lot of challenges. Along with that, India is a biggest producer of milk, but instead of producing milk or food processing, we are focusing more on paddy and wheat and the items which are covered under the MSPs, right? We are neglecting livestock and horticultures, which are more productive in comparison to wheat and paddy, right? So that is why it is creating more issues in our society. So what could be the suggestion? What could be the way forward? First is there is need to emphasize the importance of livestock, fisheries and horticulture for the future Indian agriculture. For example, horticulture is using 30% of the cropped area land in India, but it is giving 30% to the agriculture, total agriculture GDP. It is contributing to 30% agriculture GDP. And this anomaly, you can see that this is a more productive sector. Even after that, people are not moving towards the horticulture. In comparison to wheat and paddy or the grains that we are producing, it is almost 40%. It is covering almost 40% area, but producing almost 30% share in the agricultural GDP, right? Second is we have to follow an integrated value chain approach similar to the Amul model or vertically integrated poultry sector. So we are not moving towards more productive sector because we are not focusing on food processing. And MSP is also a hurdle in the food processing because lot of labor, lot of agricultural activities involved into the items which are covered under the MSP, right? Also, there is need to increase in the investment in agriculture R&D and irrigation. For example, in India, there is a 0.6% investment or 0.6% of GDP is invested in the agricultural R&D, right? But in comparison to Brazil, it's 2.6%. Brazil is investing 2.6% of its GDP in agricultural R&D. So we are lagging behind in terms of this agricultural R&D and irrigation. Next is we have to remove bans on agriculture exports and stocking limits, aiming to provide farmers access to better markets, right? So that farmers can plan better, so that farmers can have a control over prices of their products, of their produces, right? The current agri-food policies mostly favors consumer over farmers, impacting the interest of the farmers. There is a need to reorient subsidies with 75% directed towards producers through measures like price stabilization fund. Next article is what our ancestors' genomes can tell us about modern health. Studies are going on fossils, on remains of our ancestors, and through these skeletons we are extracting DNA, and with the state of art technologies we are creating genomes of our ancestors, right? What is the difference between DNA, genomes and gene? We'll be discussing in a little bit later. But with the help of this genomic study, we are trying to understand the dietary pattern of the ancestors, their lifestyle, their migration pattern, and the diseases that they were confronted, right? So with the help of all these studies, we are trying to correlate their response to the current modern problems, right? Why this is important? Because this article is discussing about genome and genome sequencing, which is important for our prelims examination. Also in GS paper 3, there is a topic science and technology developments and their application and effects in everyday life. Let's understand the importance of this concept or this issue with the help of some previous year question. In 2021, UPSC in mains examination asked about the applied biotechnology, right? So that is how this whole issue can be important for our UPSC mains as well as prelims exam, right? What is the context? Recent studies have provided insight into diets, lifestyle condition and diseases of our human ancestors through analysis of fragments of their DNA. How we are getting the DNA, how we are extracting genome from those DNAs, and how we are understanding this thing and how it is impacting our future studies or our health condition. Will be looking on this. Ancient DNA, that is aDNA, it studies with the help of cutting edge genomic techniques and have provided insight about the genetic makeup of our ancestors, right? By extracting and analyzing DNA from ancient skeletal remains, scientists can reconstruct the genetic profiles of these people, right? So there is a skeletal remains, we are extracting DNA from it, right? And through these DNA, we are creating genetic profiles of these ancestors or these people. This provides glimpse into the genetic diversity and the population dynamics of ancient communities, their migration patterns, interactions, and adaptation to local environment. Most important is diseases these people had confronted, and how all these shaped human evolution, right? Let's understand the genome first. Genome is an entire genetic material in an organism. This is different from gene, right? So genome is entire genetic material in an organism. Some organism, this genome is made up with DNA with some other materials. Some viruses, it is made up with RNA and some other materials or other elements, right? So it is made up of DNA or RNA in some viruses and includes genes and other elements that control the activity of genes, right? What is gene, what is genome, we'll be discussing later. What about human genomes? It's an entire set of deoxyribonucleic acid, that is DNA, residing in the nucleus of every cell of the human body, right? So it's in the nucleus of every cell in the human body, right? Our DNA consists of a double-stranded molecule built up by 4 bases, A, T, C, G, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, right? And they are attached or associated with each other. These are the bases, right? And every base on one strand pairs with a complementary base on the other strand. So this is doubly stranded structure. On one strand, let's suppose there is A, it will be associated with T. If there is a C, it will associated with the, or it will pair with the G, right? So similar structure is found in the human genome, right? Overall, the genome is made up of approximately 3.05 billion such pairs. How gene is different from genome? Definition: a specific sequence of DNA that encodes for a protein or RNA representing a unit of heredity. The entire set of genetic material in an organism, including all its genes and non-coding DNA, is called genome. As far as structure is concerned, gene is made up of DNA sequences located at specific positions on chromosomes, while genome includes genes non-including DNA, regulatory sequences, and sometimes RNA genes. For example, a gene for eye color, blood type, or cystic fibrosis is an example of gene. Some people may have blue color or brown color or black color as far as eye color is concerned. So this difference is because of gene, right? The human genome, the bacterial genome, and the plant genome are examples of genome. Okay. So what are the insights that are provided by the ancestral DNA? First is diet pattern and lifestyle. Insight into ancient human lifestyle. evidence of birth which used for tool repair, and information on oral health and diet adaptation, basically dietary pattern and lifestyle. Second is tool creation and technological development, how they developed stone tools and how these stone tools evolved. So this can be understood with the help of this ancestral DNA. Also, how these technologies get sophisticated over the period of time. This can also be extracted from these information. Their migration patterns and population dynamics can also be understood with the help of ancestral DNA. Their social structure and cultural practices can also be understood. Evolutionary biology and human diversity, conservation and biodiversity, it identifies genetic material from extinct species, informs conservation efforts through genetic health analysis, right? There are more results from this ancestral DNA. It can be used for the identification of ancient genetic diseases, and that will be helpful for understanding current problems. Insight into early medical practices, what were the earlier medical practices, how they used to treat themselves, and whether these treatments can be helpful in current scenario or not, that can also be assessed. How it is going to impact on modern healthcare, it highlights genetic predisposition and explains health disparities, right? It is also helpful in understanding the chromosomal abnormalities, how genes mutated with due course of time, how this gene mutation is now creating the problems that can be understood. For example, how we can understand the genetic diseases, Down syndrome. What is Down syndrome? There is an extra chromosome that is affecting the 21st chromosomal pair, is creating Down syndrome, right? Let's take some example of some genetic diseases to which these ancestral DNA can be helpful. For example, Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, and Turner syndrome. So all these things can be studied, or we can use this study, ancestral DNA study, to solve problems in these genetic mutations or genetic disorders. Last article for today's discussion is Ultradian rhythms. What are these Ultradian rhythms? These are biological cycles. Biological cycles, right? Which takes time period lesser than 24 hours, right? You may have encountered with another word, that is circadian, and which takes, or this cycle takes almost or close to 24 hours, right? So there is a difference between ultradian and circadian. We'll be discussing in a little bit later. Why this ultradian or circadian rhythms are important for our exam? Because of prelims point of view. Let's take an example why these topics are important for us. In UPSC CSC 2020 and even before that, UPSC have asked such type of questions. So in UPSC 2020, in prelims examination, they have discussed, or they asked about the plant cells and its maturity, right? So similarly, they can also ask about circadian principle or circadian rhythms and ultradian rhythms and its impact on our body, right? What is the context? Researches are going on, and these researchers have found out that these ultradian rhythms or cycles have a vital, important, critical role in our body functions. How our body should function, how productive our body should function, or is functioning productively or not. All these are governed, or there is a major impact of ultradian rhythms, right? So let's understand what is ultradian rhythms. This ultradian rhythms, or this ultradian word, is made up of two words. One is ultra, that is more than, and dies, that means day. So if a cycle is occurring more than one within a day, is called as ultradian rhythms, right? So it occurs multiple times throughout a single day, and it's a biological rhythm or biological cycle which has shorter than 24 hours period time. Okay, how it is affecting our body, or what is the role that ultradian rhythms is playing in our body, is like it governs various physiological processes and our behavior. So our behavior is also getting affected by the ultradian rhythms, right? What are the example? First is sleep cycle. Generally we know that sleep and wake cycle is known as, or is a part of circadian cycle. But this is not the complete truth. Our body doesn't sleep once in a day, right? Usually after regular interval of 90 to 120 minutes, our body takes sleep or pause, right? This is called sleep cycle. For example, non-REM and REM sleep cycle. What is REM? REM stands for rapid eye movement. So there can be rapid eye movement, there can be non-rapid eye movement through which our body sleeps. There can be multiple hormones such as growth hormone or dopamine hormone which is affecting our behavior and biological processes, right? So this will be also comes under ultradian rhythm. Eating patterns. So after particular regular period or interval, our body feels hungry, right? So this is also comes under ultradian rhythms. Let's have some comparative analysis with circadian rhythms. So by definition, ultradian rhythms with a cycle shorter than 24 hours we have discussed. And what about circadian rhythms? It have a cycle close to 24 hours, right? It occurs multiple times and it occurs once every 24 hours. Sleep cycles, heart rate, appetite, and hormonal secretion and mood fluctuations are based upon or depending upon the ultradian rhythm. Sleep and wake cycle, body temperature regulation, and metabolism and digestion comes under the circadian rhythms. How it is affecting our body? Any disruption in ultradian rhythm can affect our mental stage, can affect our behavior, can affect our mood, right? Also, it can affect our metabolic process as well. Why? Because it is affecting or it is being affected by our hormones, right? Any disruption in circadian rhythm or circadian cycle can affect our sleeping or can create sleeping disorders, right? This sleeping disorder can also affect our behavior or it can create mood disturbances, right? Also, prolonged effect in circadian rhythms can create chronic health conditions such as obesity and diabetes. So all these things comes under our non-communicable diseases, right? Ultradian rhythms are not affected or barely affected by external conditions, but circadian rhythms are affected by external conditions. How? Like light. If there is a strong light in your atmosphere, or if there is a strong light or very hard light in your vicinity, it will affect your sleeping cycle, right? Also, if you go to some other place, for example, if you are living in India and you are going to America, because of this jet lag, you can also feel difference or change in your circadian rhythm or circadian cycle, and it is affecting your metabolism for a shorter period of time, right? But as far as ultradian rhythm or ultradian cycle is concerned, it is not affected or barely affected by external influences, more affected by your physiological state or internal physiological states, right? How this ultradian cycles can be applied, or what are the application of ultradian cycles? Firstly, to increase productivity and performance. If we work for or if we study for 90 to 120 minutes continuously, then if we take break and then again we resume our work, then it will increase our productivity. That is the most important application of ultradian rhythms, right? Also, to improve our health, to ensure our wellness, we need to take regular breaks so that our ultradian rhythm or cycle can work effectively, right? Also, for sleep optimization, we need to take care of ultradian rhythms. There's also an application to design class schedules. Nowadays, schools and universities are considering ultradian rhythms for educational purposes. For how? By designing a class schedule that includes short breaks or varied activities aligned with these natural cycles, that is ultradian cycle, educators can help students maintain focus and absorb information more effectively, right? So these are the applications that we can consider under ultradian rhythms. So far, we have discussed all the important articles for today. Now let's have some practice questions. First question is, consider the following differences between ultradian and circadian rhythms. First is, ultradian rhythms occur in 24-hour cycle. That is incorrect. Circadian rhythms are more affected by external environmental factors. That is correct than ultradian rhythms. So answer would be B part. Next question, consider the following statements about minimum support price. The present calculation of MSP value is calculated based on Swaminathan formula. This is incorrect. Government has a different formula which is slightly different from this Swaminathan formula. MSP is extended to 25 agricultural commodities. That is also incorrect. 22 plus 1 for FRP. Right? So answer would be D part, none of the above. Concerning the human genome, which of the following pairs correctly match a DNA base with complementary base? So we have seen A, T, C, G, right? A with G, no. C with A, no. T with A, yes. So C part would be correct answer. G with T, no. Which of the following statements accurately describe the importance of genome sequencing in modern science? Genome sequencing is the process of determining the complete DNA sequence of an organism's genome at a single time, but it has no practical application in medicine or agriculture. This part is incorrect. No practical. A lot of practical applications. The technique of genome sequencing only applies to human DNA, only applies to, no, this is incorrect, cannot be used, this is incorrect. Genome sequencing has allowed for the development of genetically modified organisms but has no role in the study of evolutionary biology. This is also incorrect. Last is, genome sequencing provides comprehensive insights into an organism's genetic makeup, enabling advances in personalized medicine, the study of evolutionary relationship, and the development of improved agricultural practices. This seems to be correct answer. Next question is, consider the following statements regarding IPCC reports. First IPCC report suggested for the creation of UNFCCC, that is correct. The IPCC does not conduct scientific researches itself, but synthesizes existing scientific literature on climate change through global scientific collaboration. That is correct. So both are correct. C part would be the correct answer. Let's do some mains practice question. How artificial intelligence can affect social structure in India? So introduction, you have to explain what is social structure, specifically in context of social stratification in India. Then in the body part, you have to explain firstly how technology is affecting or is related to the social structure. What is the interplay between social structure and the technology, specifically to in the case of artificial intelligence? So we have to jot down some parameters, and on those parameters we have to assess how it is going to affect social structure and how it is going to be affected by the social structure, right? So let's see the introduction. Define social structure in context of India. Also define social stratification as well if possible. Start with general principles through which you can connect technology with the social structure, then explain artificial intelligence and its component affecting social interactions such as employment, how does artificial intelligence going to affect employment, education, health, agriculture, social mobility, etc. etc. These are the things which are going to affect social structure, social stratification, right? Then explain the biases inherent in the artificial intelligence. In conclusion, you can write India needs to develop inclusive policies that ensure equitable access to AI technologies, promote ethical standards, invest in education and skill development, and address the digital divide. Balancing AI's benefits with mitigating its risks is essential to harness its potential for social good without disrupting the social fabric adversely. So, it is incorporating the idea of meritocracy, a new definition of meritocracy. So, that is how we can conclude our discussion. Thank you so much. And if you like our initiative, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.